6 things we learnt about the Socceroos 1-0 victory over Canada. And number one, Nestor Irankunda can absolutely take it for 90 minutes
Yeah.
now. Well, he was extraordinary from, the start of the game. Obviously, the first half, and we'll get to that, there wasn't much opportunity for him going forward. But the key is to be able to sit through those periods and wait for your opportunities. And when they did come after that triple change around the 60th minute, Australia all of a sudden had all this opportunity going forward. Nestor was at the heart and the pressure of a lot of it. And when there was a slightly loose touch in defence, he was the one to capitalise and got the goal for the Aussies.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen evolve with his game is that he's patient, but he stays in games for 90 minutes, and then he is trusted enough to keep his mental for that long. And if you've got him on the field, he'll just keep popping up in these areas and chasing every ball. He doesn't stop working now, so he's got the physicality. He's got behind himself, and yeah, he just shows it for that goal especially. Just kind of sums it all up, right? We saw this wide ball. Mo Toure made a break, and you thought it was kind of fizzling out, not going anywhere, and Toure puts in this kind of hopeful ball in behind the defense, and it kind of just slots perfectly behind the defenders and causes a little bit of confusion. But the Canadian defender takes a touch, but doesn't realize that Irankunda is just bearing down
Right
on him,
there, yeah.
right there in his rearview mirror. And yeah, kind of half tackle, half shot, and it finds its way in. So that's exactly just what he can do. And I think I said it across the previous games as well. Like he's just that perfect player for that Popovich system that makes this kind of style of football worth watching and worth sitting through, because he has those moments of spark like that. And we saw it a couple of times. He probably deserved like even a little bit more out of this game, but the fact that he pops up in those moments and can salvage something out of these type of games is why he's been given the reward of starting and lasting that 90 minutes. So no, awesome. And it definitely, as you mentioned, Lockie, the wing backs coming on kind of did help the chance creation a bit after that. So it opened up a little bit more, and there was that space for Toure down the wing. That he does definitely needed. Irankunda needs the support from his wing backs. He can do stuff when it's 1v4 and he's taking on defenses like we've seen, but it is better when he has that support alongside him and wide, and he can come inside and find those areas. So no, it's he's really learning this system. I think when he got his first debut and his early kind of appearances for the Socceroos, it was a little bit of how he's not really slotting in how he kind of has for Adelaide and clubs in the past, but he's definitely finding his footing in this kind of system. So no, his growth has been really awesome to watch, and he's coming into his own in the Socceroos shirt.
Jacob, you've been watching him play regularly back since his Adelaide United days in person, and when we were doing the live stream for this game up on YouTube, we had a good comment that said he's come a long way since Carl Vieters had to manage his minutes and coming in late in games to make that impact. He's seriously matured into a really strong physical player that can go these full 90 minutes and still have that impact late on.
And it's all of the criticisms that he had from that period of time when he was younger of he's a hothead, he doesn't defend, he doesn't work hard, or it's all been put to bed. You just have to watch him in these games for the Socceroos when he starts, where he works for like you said, Will, he's chasing the ball constantly for 90 minutes. He's always pressing. He gets back to defend. There were a bunch of times you'd see him deep, kind of almost in the six role at times, trying to sweep things up. He's always got an eye for goal still, right? Every time he gets on the ball, he's thinking about, right, how can we turn this into a scoring chance? He's can keep his head for a full game. Obviously, did kind of blow off a little bit towards the end, but can't blame him too much when he's just getting pushed around off the ball and stuff like that. Like, it's going to get to you eventually. And I think everybody on the pitch kind of had their moments in this one. So you can't single him out for that. It's just, he's come such a long way, and it's so great to see, because the talent has always been there, the potential has always been there, and it's the fact that he's now realising that and is able to put it together for a full 90 minutes against a good team for the Socceroos. Like, this he's just such a great player, and I said it when he was at Adelaide, but I've never seen a player who is just as exciting as he is in person. Like, when he gets on the ball, it's just everybody lifts and it's like something's going to happen here. And like you said, Will, that's exactly what you want. If you're going to play this kind of very regimented, pragmatic football, you want to have somebody who's there to still be worth watching at the end of the day, that can create a moment of madness, whether it's a slide tackle for a goal here, or if it's hitting the bar from a free kick inside the center circle, or whatever it might be. He's just got that ability to turn it on. And it's crazy to think he's only now starting to get these full 90 minutes. How good is he going to be as he continues to have this, and he's able to kind of figure things out about how to pace himself? And what a prospect it is to have him continue to develop.
He's going to be a star. Will, he had this moment in the 93rd, 94th minute, really late in the game. And it was, the throes of emotion. He kind of just did a very normal, standard kind of kick the ball away off an opposition free kick. The type of thing that every footballer does. And all of a sudden, a Canadian player comes in from 20 metres away and gives him a big shove in the chest. And we saw him react. And all of a sudden, we're thinking back to that original rivalry, James Donachie dragging him down. Nestor reacts and gets himself sent off. And there was absolutely the fire in the eyes, and the emotion was there. It didn't get to quite that point. The referee managed to quite enthusiastically calm him down. But what do you make of that moment? And we can talk about the maturity. That's a bit of a buzzword that we consistently use, but it is good because you want to play with that fire, that emotion, as long as it doesn't go too far.
Yeah, and I said it during the game, people have used that against him, that his passion and that fiery, side of his game. But that's kind of that is his game. That's what drives him. That is why he is the player he is. He has that emotional connection with the game. You can tell. And it's not like he was out there being the protagonist in all of this. He wasn't starting anything. He was as you said, a regular kind of occurrence of we're 1-0 up late in the game and they've got a free kick deep in their box, and I'm just gonna nudge the ball over here a little bit. And it was the Canadian player, I think it was Waterman, who came over and did shove him first. So I mean, it was a totally valid reaction, but you can see that his this side of his game is, and this side of his personality is obviously closely watched by everyone. And Matt Ryan was straight over there, hugging him around, holding him in and making sure he didn't kind of throw any swings or anything like that. But no, the passion is what you want. And even when he was subbed off, so Popovic kind of embraced him for a long time. And yeah, it just shows that all these players, when it felt like the football supporters and commentators and managers kind of use this against him, it seems like now they're kind of unified in this approach to kind of be on his side, keeping him wrapped up kind of thing, and really managing this side.
It's part of his game, so, right? That's where he draws it from. Is the emotion. That's why he's able to go out there and perform like that for 90 minutes. Is because 100%. And he said this back in his Adelaide days of I feel like it's always on me to score a goal. That's my job. That's what I've got to do, and I'm disappointed in myself if I don't do that. So it's that's why he's able to play so well, is because he puts that pressure on himself, and obviously that leads to being highly emotional and invested in the game. And if you want to have a player like him, you've got to take the trade-off of having somebody who's occasionally going to lose their cool. But
I love to see it, and it's not like he didn't get frustrated at being subbed off. He knew it called for that. Unlike when he got subbed off in the 35th minute or something for Watford the other day, and he let that be known that he wasn't into that. But that manager's thankfully gone. So even in his reaction, just being subbed there was not frustration. It was, you could see that's a real growth already in maturity and everything. So I love to see that side to the Socceroos games, because that's what will carry us, I think, that 10% further than just our performances as well.
Number 2, Paul Izzo is a legit contender for the number 1 goalkeeping shirt for the Socceroos at the World Cup. I honestly, Jacob, wasn't expecting him to start this game. I thought Matty Ryan coming back in after his transfer to Levante in La Liga, he would have just come back straight in the number 1. But I guess, and we kind of talked this through live, is that we're kind of in that point where Matt Ryan isn't totally settled. He's only been there a little while, so he's back in the squad. But Paul Izzo has had good performances, and Popovic has publicly said you can trust Paul Izzo. So he's held his position, and he's had another absolute blinder in this game. He was resolute in the first half. where he had to be. And we'll talk about the Socceroos' ability to just sustain those tough periods. But there were chances late on in the game where he was decisive in ensuring that this was a Socceroos win. He was the player of the match for me. He had that one-on-one where he kind of sticked out his right leg and got it off the knee. That was the best save of the game. But there were other little examples of just goalkeepers just doing a little bit more than average, plus showing up in those big moments. And Izzo is putting a very, very convincing case together for that World Cup berth.
Yeah, I think if he's not fighting for number one, he's easily set number two, and that's an end of, because he's been getting those minutes in over Joe Gauci in these matches, so it just kind of feels like there's the preference there for it to be Ryan and Izzo as the two goalkeepers, and they maybe it is a case now of they're fighting it out to see who's going to start at the World Cup, because when Izzo's performing like that, it's difficult to look away from him and say he doesn't deserve it. He didn't really put a foot wrong. Only one moment that I can recall, obviously late in the game, one of those big looping balls that comes down, and he's kind of got two Canada players next to him, both going for the ball as well, and he can't quite get to it. That's the only one I think he lost all game. Like, he was just so clean. That's the other thing, right? It was clean. It was a lot of times the ball was hit straight at him, but goalkeepers will parry those and just deflect it off to another oncoming attacker or somebody, but he would just catch it, or he'd fall on top of it and just make sure that he just completely neutralized the threat. It was a really, really good performance from him, really strong, made good saves, kept Canada out of the game. Canada actually had the higher XG, if you'd pay any attention to that, if you take any credence from that, meaning he did a good job of keeping them out of the back of the net. Like, yeah, I think a well-deserved kind of man of the match for him. I'd be surprised if he didn't win it. I don't know who the official man of the match was, but by all ranking metrics, he's got like a 9.4 on SofaScore or something like that. He had an absolute blinder, and it really was. It could have been a different game, honestly, if maybe we had somebody else between the sticks, or if he wasn't quite up to it, and it could have been even potentially a higher scoring affair. Obviously, Australia had their fair share of chances as well. But no, really mature performance from him, and it's great to see as well. He's kind of made this almost comeback in his career where things looked like they maybe weren't going to go the right way with a move to Europe and ending up in the Greek second or third division, and then coming back to Australia, and it's rejuvenated his career. And it's another example of that happening, and he's now able to put in these performances for the Socceroos. So yeah, I think now it's going to be interesting to see heading into the World Cup who is the one who's going to get that starting spot, because if Izzo keeps getting minutes at rounders, which he's doing, if he keeps performing like this for the Socceroos, which he's doing, is going to require some heroics from Matt Ryan, I think, to displace him at this point.
Let me give you one stat before you go off, Will. Izzo's 8 saves in this game per off to Jason is the most from a men's international keeper ever for the Socceroos.
Wow.
So that is a new record. And I'd love to hear your experiences as a keeper, but obviously when you're in goals, to a large extent, you can be a victim of your circumstances. You only, whatever shots you get towards you in a game is completely random. It's not up to you. You just got to take your opportunities to be successful when it comes. And this was one of those games for Izzo, and he stood up so well.
100%. That's the most frustrating thing about keeping, is that, the other team has to shoot for me to be able to do anything. I have those, you have those games where I'm like, I was a passenger, hey. And maybe they scored a couple still, but you can still be a passenger to those goals. But exactly, when he was called upon, he absolutely stepped up. Like, that was a awesome performance. And I mean, I was going to say that we're just in such a privileged position now where we are having this conversation about who's number one, because I remember a period of time where we were like, who the hell's number two? There's no one stepping up to be number two or three. We didn't have that depth. We were in panic stations. But having two keepers at least that can have performances like this, because we know Matt Ryan's capable of kind of these performances as well. So we've got him there in reserve if needed. But to see Izzo step up and be this confident, and the way he was claiming crosses, super commanding of his box, the saves, he sets him up. What I've noticed about Izzo always is his positioning is excellent. He tracks the ball so well from crosses. He's always been really, really, really solid at that, and he puts himself in the right position to make those saves that you think he shouldn't really have a chance at making. So no, I'm super confident in Izzo, and really glad that we've got that depth there now if needed.
Number 3, the Socceroos still struggle a little bit getting out of the press. Now, this was essentially the whole story of this first half, Jacob.
Yeah.
The Socceroos were really, I guess, brave again in terms of how they wanted to play out from the back. And the Canadian press, and we previewed this last week as well, it wasn't as intense as maybe
Yeah.
you've seen some other presses in the past, but it was super intelligent. So the first ball to get out to a centre back or a wing back was always easy enough. But once Canada got you in those corners, the way they moved their press in that position made it extremely hard to play out of. And there were a lot of balls, you kind of up down the line that just went to no one in the first half. And they really, really struggled to find the midfielders to build out through the centre of the park as well. And so this, again, you can see that happening in a game, and all of a sudden you can go, okay, we're just going to kick it long off goal kicks. But to their credit, they kept trying to break them down, and they weren't successful in the first half. They just weren't. But I guess that's part of what these games are about, is testing that. But as you know, we stand in that first half, especially the Socceroos really struggled to break through.
Yeah, look, kind of expected. I'm maybe a little surprised. I thought that they might be well set up to be able to break through it a little bit. Especially with 3 centre backs, obviously your 2 wing backs who can keep pinned back. You've got 5 at the back there. You've got those 2 midfielders who can drop in deep to receive. Like, I thought maybe this team actually could be well set up to counter it, but it seemed like that wasn't the case, and they just played into Canada's hands. But like you said, it was an intelligent press from Canada. It's something I kind of touched on in the previews, that they move as a unit, and the whole idea, obviously, of keeping the opposition pinned in more than pressing it in a way to challenge for the ball, if that makes sense, is forcing the team into making a mistake rather than trying to tackle them. And it's keeping them pinned in the corners to the sidelines. Because then you've got your fullbacks can press up onto the opposition wingers when they go to receive the ball in that second level. So, it's just really intelligent, and it's difficult. It is a difficult one to break down. But I do think that it kind of came unstuck a little bit in that second half when they did start to find those players through the middle. And that's what changed, I think, for Australia, when they realised, hang on, we can't just keep playing it out to the wing backs and then trying to launch it to the wingers and it doesn't go anywhere. Instead, we saw those wingers kind of come inside slightly, right, into that kind of those floating 10 roles that we see with Popovic's system, and the 2 central midfielders sitting a little bit deeper to try and draw those players in, and then just kind of almost bypassing those guys to go straight to the 10s. That was effective, and we're able to hit really quickly on the break quite a few times, and that's where a lot of the chances for Australia came from in that second half. So look, I don't think it's panic stations. I do think it is a persistent problem that this side does have, is not being able to break through presses, and the midfield has shown that in recent times as well, being unable to kind of shake those man for man presses in the midfield. But I think that what it has shown is there's an adaptability there, and an ability to recognize kind of the shortcomings of the team and go, right, we need to make changes to how we set up to try and deal with this. I think it would be more worrying if they just kept trying to do the same thing over and over again in that second half, to no avail. But they did switch things up, and it did work, and managed to get away with the win. So look, it's something to continue to work on. But I think it's also one of the first times they've really been tested with a press like this, as well. So it's just kind of a good opportunity to test the waters, and they passed. They didn't really do anything too silly. I think the defense kind of held the ball relatively well. It was more turnovers in kind of the central third of the pitch than the back third, which is always a good thing as well. So there's still positives to take away from it, but it's definitely an area to continue to work on for the Socceroos.
And I think the positive side of that, and this is number 4 in our list, is that the Socceroos can hold resolute when they need to, and they can ride the waves of momentum in a match wheel. And, people will look at that first half and say, we couldn't get the ball out, we couldn't do anything, we were under the pump, Canada had a lot of the ball, but we were so firm. We did not give up high goal scoring chances, like probability chances of scoring, at all in that first half. That 5-4 block with kind of Motore up top just agitating. People can say whatever they want about it. A principal characteristic of good football teams is that they are compact in defense and they are very hard to break down. And that's what the Socceroos are. And we saw in that second half, when the game opened up a little bit, then we still have more than enough attacking ability to kind of flow and move the game forward as well. So I think it's an incredible positive that when we're really struggling in a period of a football match like we were in the first half, that we can at least really settle and bunker in and not give away the goals. And then we can take opportunities in different phases of the game to press our advantage going forward.
Yeah, football's a results-based business, and Tony Popovich is
he's got the results.
He's got the result, like he's doing all he needs to, and it's not the most advanced pressing system. It's just a low block 5-4 with one guy doing doggy.
Yeah,
he's the one doing all the work.
Yeah, but it's international football. You get a 10th of the training sessions that you even less, a 20th of the training sessions that you do for a club side. You can't implement the most advanced hybrid pressing, man, like zonal man, all this stuff. Like it's impossible to get across, especially when Popovich came in. It is a factor as well, right? You can't get that stuff across instantly. And so what he's done is fix the defense first, made us leak proof, which we've always been leaky. We've always been open to some form of, like, there's always been some glaring.
It's always been sloppy, right? It's like,
it's sloppy. It's never, it's always felt like there's been mistakes, and it's like, oh, there's individual errors at the back, but it's also, that's because of the system as well. There's always been some kind of flaw like that, but what Popovich has gotten rid of that completely. We can absolutely see out a game, and the players have that confidence to see out a game. This is the most informed, like, our backline has been, I think, since I remember watching the Socceroos, really. And for, like, all the purposes, like, that's Popovich is doing exactly what he needs to. So yeah, it's a bit stodgy sometimes, but you cannot. I've fully come around. I've drank the Kool-Aid now. You can't argue with any of the results, and players, like we've said, like Irankunda and Toure, they provide the entertainment while the defense sits there and soaks up all the pressure, which is exactly what needs to be done. So no, it's can't ask for much more.
So a couple of stats on that. Toure and Irankunda have now got 4 goal contributions between them in the last 2 games.
There you go.
And obviously when we talk about runs on teams as well, this is now Popper's 11th undefeated game in a row, 7th win, and we've just broken Canada's 9-game unbeaten streak as well.
Crazy.
On home soil, which is just exceptional.
Can't downplay how what a great coach Josie Marsh is, and what a tough team. Like, especially such a top heavy side like Canada have always been, like, filled with attacking talent, and Jonathan David, their captain. They've got really, really, like, dangerous individuals and really well coached. The recipe was there for us to cop a beating this morning, but we didn't, and yeah, can't be underplayed and downplayed how good Canada was, and the fact that we saw them out is a fantastic kind of.
And more FIFA coefficient points to get up into the 24th spot to get the pool.
Don't tune out, guys. Don't tune out.
It's important. It's important. But talking about that backline, point number 5, somewhat facetiously, is that Jordan Boss is a Premier League / Bundesliga player. We saw him do that interview and say those were the 2 leagues that he would hope to get his next move to. And he's only just had a month or two in the Eredivisie with Feyenoord, but he's won Player of the Month. And what an impact he made. It literally, in the minutes he came on the field, as well as Lewis Miller, who I give a lot of credit to on the right as well. Those 2 players for me are absolutely the locks in a first choice team for those wing back positions. They just, they changed the game, Jacob. Yeah. You're spot on.
It's because they just open things up so much more. There's no disrespect to Kai Riles and to, was it Italiano, was the starting right wing back. Absolutely fine to have those guys in there, but when you need a goal, you got to have guys like Miller and Boss who are going to work up those wings, open space up. They're going to take attention away potentially from either one of the midfielders or from one of the 10s by drawing a defender across. It spreads that back line out for the opposition. Like, it's just, there's so many benefits to having that kind of mobile attacking threat wing back, and it especially makes sense, right? Why play with wing backs in 3 at the back if you're not going to have them be kind of aggressive and look to take opportunities and open up space? So yeah, absolute game changers. And Boss was particularly, the work that he did up and down the wing. He was, even in like defensive transition, he was winning the ball back quite well. He kind of had a good thing going with Irankunda a few times as well. They had some nice passages of play, and it just kind of freed things up so much more. It opened up space for the likes of Chikati to just start making runs through the middle, and he found himself on the end of a couple of chances in the box, and he was able to carry the ball through the midfield and stuff. It just opens that that space up, and that kind of helped break through the press as well. Having, you know, just constant threats on both wings, it's huge benefit. So he was tremendous. You know, maybe had that one cross that he put in that wasn't fantastic. Was it Boyle's absolutely wide open on the penalty spot, and he just kicks it straight at the keeper. But other than that, it was a really, really good impact that he had on the game, and I think it goes to show the quality that he has, and the fact that I don't see any reason he shouldn't be starting, to be honest, because he's just offers so much more in that role.
Yeah, so he was a late inclusion to camp, like just actually travelling, Geordie Boss. So that was the reason why he didn't start this game, in case people are wondering. But I'd have a pretty solid bet that he'd start against the US in a few days' time. Alessandro Ciccardi loves to go walkabout.
Yeah.
We saw him in some wild positions. He had that chance that fell to him in the box that he put over the bar. There was kind of like the blocker kind of low, right? So he had to go high and just put it a little bit too much. And then he also had that ball in the cross to, was it Irankunda on the head?
Yeah.
And, you know, it was great. He was making his impact, but we just didn't expect him, Will, to be popping up in those scenarios.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And that, like, this 5 at the back kind of allows one of the centre backs to be stepping up like that. But he was surpassing Yazbek and O'Neill and Allard in the centre of midfield. He was just finding his way up there. But he's so technically good. Like, we saw him play, you know, wing back in one of the games, or right back early on in his in the windows, and he can do everything. So I don't mind him in those situations. Like that shot that came to him was taken a bit too quickly. Maybe could have side-footed it rather than get it, like, kind of slicing it upwards, chipping it, you know, leaning back, classic centre back strike there. But it came quickly. He had to, as you mentioned, he had to go around the defender, so that was a really tough chance. That ball for Irankunda over the head, he had a free header. If Irankunda, it was like 3 inches taller, that's a goal. But the set piece deliveries or dead ball deliveries there were fantastic. So I don't mind him getting up into those positions. It's a really just another element of his game that he's kind of added on and really looked the part. And I don't know if it's planned. Maybe Popovich has given him that.
Well, I think here maybe it is planned, right? In that when you're playing with a 2-man midfield, you're always going to be overloaded there. And this is something that kind of we've seen with the likes of Pep Guardiola has done with John Stones at times as well, where when you're facing a midfield overload like that, you get that centre back to step up into that space and kind of play as almost a 6. And that's kind of what we saw from Ciccardi. So, you know, maybe it is a plan of hey, if that space opens up, take it. You know, we're happy because we still got them 2 at the back anyway. So, you know, we're still solid. Like, it could actually be planned.